I'm grateful you chose to spend this quiet moment here tonight. It's an honor to share this calm space with you and to let my voice accompany you as the night gently settles around us. The stone street is already here, resting beneath the night. Its surface is worn smooth by time, each stone settled into place, unchanged, dependable. Warm lantern light rests gently against the walls, not moving, not asking for attention, simply holding the space as it has for countless nights before this one. The air is cool and still, carrying only the faintest sense of distance and calm. You are here now, within this quiet medieval town, where nothing is required and nothing is expected. The narrow streets remain just as they are, enclosed and steady, guiding nothing and demanding nothing. Light pools softly along the ground, and shadows stay where they belong. The night feels orderly, functional, and safe. As this place continues on its own, you are free to remain for a while, free to settle into the rhythm of this calm environment, free to let the mind rest without needing to follow or understand. There is no story unfolding, no moment to anticipate, only the steady presence of stone, light, and silence, continuing without effort. If you feel comfortable, I invite you to stay here and keep listening as this quiet walk unfolds at its own gentle pace. And if you'd like, you're warmly welcome to share in the comments where you're listening from tonight. I love knowing where the Sleepy Voyage community is finding rest around the world. For now, the lanterns remain lit, the streets remain still, and this night continues exactly as it is. You don't need to do anything at all. Just remain as the calm carries on. The medieval town spreads outward from this single street, though the view reveals little beyond what sits directly ahead. Stone buildings rise on either side, their surfaces textured with age, each crack and variation visible only where lantern light touches them. The walls are thick, solid, built centuries ago by hands that understood weight and permanence. They lean slightly inward, as if the buildings themselves have grown tired over time and seek to rest against one another. The street itself is narrow, perhaps wide enough for two people to pass without touching, though no one passes now. The stones beneath are uneven, worn down in places where countless footsteps have traveled the same path, year after year, generation after generation. Some stones sit higher than others. Some are darker, absorbing less light. All of them remain exactly where they were placed, settled into the earth, unmovable. Above, the sky holds no stars tonight. Clouds rest low and heavy, though they do not promise rain. They simply exist, a soft ceiling that keeps the world contained, quiet, separate from whatever lies beyond. The temperature is cool without being cold, the kind of air that touches the skin gently and asks nothing in return. The lanterns hang at regular intervals along the street, mounted on iron brackets that protrude from the stone walls. Each lantern is simple, functional, made of metal darkened by time and weather. Inside, a flame burns steadily, its light warm and amber, casting small pools of illumination that overlapped just slightly with the next. Between these pools, shadows gather. Though they are not deep, everything remains visible. Nothing hides. The light does not flicker dramatically. It moves only slightly, responding to air currents, too subtle to feel, creating the faintest variation in brightness. This movement is rhythmic, predictable, like breathing. The glass panes of the lanterns are old, slightly warped, so the light that passes through them softens further, losing any sharpness it might have held. Sound exists here, but it is distant and unchanging. Somewhere far off, the wind moves between buildings, creating a low, steady hum that never rises or falls. It is not a whistle or a howl. It is simply the sound of air finding its way through narrow passages, consistent as a heartbeat. This sound has been present since the beginning, and it will continue long after attention has drifted elsewhere. There are no footsteps, no voices, no doors opening or closing. The town is not abandoned, but it is asleep, or perhaps it is simply paused, existing in a state between activity and rest. The buildings hold their occupants quietly, keeping them safe and warm, allowing the night to pass without disturbance. A single weather vane sits atop one of the taller structures, visible only as a dark silhouette against the clouded sky. It does not turn. The wind that creates that distant hum is not strong enough to move it. It points in one direction, has pointed in that direction for hours, perhaps days, and will continue pointing there until something changes. But nothing changes here. Not tonight. The street continues forward, stretching into a gentle curve that hides whatever lies beyond. This is not an invitation to follow. It is simply the nature of the street, built long ago to accommodate the shape of the land beneath it, following terrain rather than imposing upon it. The curve is gradual, patient, leading nowhere urgent. Along the base of the walls, where stone meets cobblestone, small accumulations of dust and dirt have settled over time. No one has swept here recently. There is no need. The town does not demand tidiness. It accepts what time brings, allows surfaces to age, permits small imperfections to exist without correction. One of the lanterns burns slightly brighter than the others, though not by much. Perhaps its wick is newer, or perhaps it simply holds more fuel. The difference is barely noticeable, detectable only through careful observation, and even then it holds no significance. It is simply a fact, one among many, deserving neither attention nor dismissal. The air carries a faint scent, though it takes time to notice. It is not the smell of smoke from the lanterns, nor the dampness of stone. It is older than that, more fundamental. It is the scent of time itself, of centuries compressed into walls and streets, of rain that fell decades ago and never fully dried, of wood that aged in doorways and windowsills, of iron that rusted slowly and was replaced and rusted again. This scent does not announce itself. It does not demand to be identified or understood. It simply exists, part of the atmosphere, woven into the stillness so thoroughly that separating it from the air itself would be impossible. The buildings have windows, though most are dark. Behind thick panes of old glass, curtains remain drawn, keeping interiors private, preserving warmth. In one window, far down the street, a single candle burns. Its light is small, barely visible, offering no more illumination than the lanterns already provide. Someone placed it there, perhaps as habit, perhaps as signal, though to whom or for what purpose remains unknown. It burns steadily, undisturbed, adding one more small point of constancy to a scene already filled with stillness. Time moves here, but slowly, at a pace that makes measurement irrelevant. Minutes blend into one another without distinction. The lanterns burn at the same rate they burned an hour ago. The wind continues, its low hum unchanged. The stones remain beneath, solid and patient, as they have remained for centuries. Nothing asks for reaction. Nothing requires response. The street exists, the light holds, the air rests cool and still, and all of it continues whether witnessed or not. This is not a place that needs an observer. It would be exactly the same if no one stood here at all. The shadows along the walls have particular shapes, cast by the irregular surfaces of stone and the angles of lantern light. Some shadows are sharp where light meets solid edges. Others are soft, diffused where surfaces curve, or where multiple light sources overlap. These shadows do not move except for the slightest, almost imperceptible shift as lantern flames breathe their small, rhythmic variations. One shadow, cast by an iron bracket holding a lantern, stretches across the cobblestones in a long, thin line. It points toward the center of the street, breaking the otherwise smooth pattern of stones, marking space without purpose. It has been there since the lantern was lit, will remain there until the lantern is extinguished, existing simply because light and object occupy the same moment. The walls themselves vary in color, though darkness reduces these variations to subtle differences in tone. Some sections are pale gray, others deeper, almost charcoal where age and weather have darkened them. Mortar lines show between stones, slightly recessed, creating a texture that the eye can follow endlessly if allowed. Each stone was placed individually, fitted against its neighbors, secured with care by hands long gone. In places, the mortar has crumbled slightly, leaving small gaps, though none large enough to threaten the integrity of the wall. These gaps are simply evidence of time, of seasons passing, of frost and thaw, rain and sun, year after year, wearing its surfaces with patience that matches the patience of the stones themselves. Overhead, where walls meet roof lines, tiles overlap in careful patterns, their edges visible as dark lines against the clouded sky. These tiles are old, some older than others, replaced individually over decades as weather claimed them. They rest at precise angles, designed to shed rain, to protect the structures beneath, fulfilling their function without decoration or flourish. The street curves gently, and as it does, the view shifts slightly, revealing more of the same, more stone, more lantern light, more stillness. There is a rhythm to this sameness, a comfort in knowing that what lies ahead will not differ significantly from what already surrounds this moment. Predictability becomes a form of peace. A wooden door is set into one of the walls, its surface dark with age and perhaps with varnish applied decades ago. The wood grain is still visible, lines running vertically, interrupted by knots that sit like small, dark eyes. Metal hinges, black with time, hold the door in its frame. A simple handle, worn smooth by countless hands, catches a small amount of lantern light, reflecting it dully. The door is closed. It has been closed for hours, will remain closed for hours more. Behind it, stairs perhaps, or a hallway, or a single room where someone sleeps or sits in private darkness. The door reveals nothing of what it contains, offers no invitation, poses no question. It is simply there, part of the wall, part of the street, part of the unchanging landscape of this quiet place. The temperature has not shifted. The air remains cool, stable, touching exposed skin with the same gentle pressure it held moments ago, minutes ago. There is no wind here on the street itself, only that distant hum from somewhere else. Somewhere the passage between buildings creates movement. Here the air is still, held between walls, contained and calm. The lantern light has not grown brighter or dimmer. The flames inside their glass housings continue their small, barely perceptible dance, consuming fuel at a rate so gradual that change is invisible. These lanterns have burned through other nights, will burn through nights to come. Their purpose simple, their function reliable. Footsteps would echo here if there were footsteps, but there are none. The stone walls would carry sound, amplify it slightly, send it bouncing from surface to surface before releasing it into the night. But without sound to carry, the walls hold only silence, and that silence feels almost deliberate, as though the town itself has chosen rest over activity, stillness over movement. The street continues forward, past this curve, past the next lantern, toward other sections of town that likely appear much the same as this one. There is no urgency in that direction, no destination calling, no reason to imagine what might lie beyond except more stone, more light, more quiet constancy. One of the window sills, visible in the lantern light, holds a small clay pot. Inside, no plant grows. Perhaps something grew there once, in warmer months, when sun reached this spot and encouraged green things. Now the pot sits empty, its interior shadowed, its purpose fulfilled or abandoned, though which remains unclear. It does not matter. The pot remains, solid and unremarkable, part of the accumulated details that make up this place. The cobblestones beneath have slight variations in spacing. In some sections, they fit tightly together, edges touching with barely a seam visible. In other sections, small gaps appear, filled with compacted dirt, darkened by time and moisture. None of these gaps are large enough to pose difficulty. They are simply facts of construction. Evidence of hands working centuries ago, placing stones as carefully as possible, accepting that perfect uniformity was neither possible nor necessary. The buildings rise to different heights. Some are 2 stories, others 3, none particularly tall, all built to a human scale that feels neither imposing nor diminished. The roof lines create an irregular pattern against the sky, each structure maintaining its own proportion, its own relationship to the ground and to the space around it. Where walls meet, corners form, and these corners are often rounded slightly, worn by weather and time, smoothed by the passage of years. Sharp edges have become soft edges. Hard lines have become gentle curves. Everything here has aged together, moving through seasons at the same pace, accumulating the same patina of time. The lantern flames require no tending. They burn on their own, fed by reservoirs of oil that will last through the night and into morning. Someone filled these reservoirs earlier, perhaps hours ago, a task performed regularly, without fanfare, part of the rhythm of maintaining a place that endures. The flames ask for nothing now, except to be left alone to complete their function. The silence here is not absolute. That distant hum of wind continues, providing a baseline of sound that prevents complete emptiness. But beyond that hum, there is nothing. No animals move in the darkness. No insects buzz or click. No mechanisms tick or hum. The town has settled into a state of profound, pervasive quiet, the kind that allows thoughts to slow, attention to diffuse, presence to become passive. The stones beneath have been walked upon by thousands of people, perhaps tens of thousands, across centuries. Each person added their small contribution to the wearing down of surfaces, the smoothing of edges, the creation of paths, visible only in the way light catches slight depressions. These paths are not worn deeply. The stone is hard, resistant, yielding only gradually to the passage of time and traffic. The buildings themselves have witnessed generations. Families have lived within them, born and died, celebrated and mourned, worked and rested, all behind those thick stone walls that provided shelter from weather, from noise, from the concerns of the wider world. These walls have stood through wars and peace, through prosperity and hardship, through changes in government and culture, remaining essentially the same, fulfilling their purpose with silent reliability. One of the lanterns, examined more closely in mind, reveals details that were not apparent at first. The metal frame that holds the glass is crafted with simple joinery, pieces fitted together and secured with small bolts, now rusted but still functional. The glass itself is slightly greenish, a quality of old glass. Impurities in the sand from which it was made, giving it a faint tint that softens the light passing through. The flame inside is yellow at its core, orange at its edges, with the faintest hint of blue at its base where it meets the wick. This color gradient is subtle, visible only with attention, and it adds warmth to the light cast outward. The flame is perhaps an inch tall, maybe slightly more, stable and contained, burning at a rate that suggests hours of fuel remain. The bracket that holds this lantern is forged iron, simple in design but solid in construction. It extends perhaps a foot from the wall, angled slightly upward to hold the lantern level. The iron has developed a rough texture over time. Surface oxidation creating small pits and variations that catch shadow and light in equal measure. Time continues passing, though at a pace that makes its passage almost imperceptible. The night has weight here, density, a quality of extension that suggests it will not end quickly. There are hours remaining before dawn, hours of this same stillness, this same light, this same quiet continuation. The street holds its secrets, if secrets they can be called. Small details accumulate, available for notice, but not demanding it. A chip in one cobblestone, a slight discoloration on one wall where water once ran during heavy rain. A section of mortar that appears newer than the rest, evidence of repair work done years ago, now aged enough to blend almost seamlessly with. None of these details change the fundamental character of this place. They are variations within sameness, small individualities within larger uniformity. The town is not monotonous. It is consistent. The difference matters. The air remains cool. The light remains steady. The silence remains profound. And all of it continues, existing whether attended to or not, requiring nothing, offering quiet presence in return for quiet acceptance. The curve of the street leads the eye forward, but there is no compulsion to follow. What lies beyond that curve is likely more of the same, variations on a theme that has already been established. More stone, more lanterns, more stillness. The imagination need not work to fill in details. The pattern is clear, the expectation reliable. This is a place where change happens slowly, measured in years rather than moments. What was here yesterday will be here tomorrow, and next week, and next month. The stones will not shift. The walls will not crumble. The lanterns will continue being lit each evening, extinguished each morning, burning through the night in their patient, reliable way. Within this constancy, there is permission to rest, not the rest of sleep necessarily, though that may come, but the rest of not needing to track change, not needing to respond to stimulus, not needing to maintain vigilance. This place does not surprise, it does not demand. It simply continues, and in that continuation, it offers something rare, absolute predictability. The shadows have not moved except for their small, rhythmic breathing with the lantern flames. They remain where they have been, dark counterparts to pools of light, neither growing nor shrinking, held in balance by consistent illumination. These shadows are familiar now, expected, part of the visual rhythm of this space. The cobblestones continue beneath, extending forward and back, creating a path that has no visible beginning or end from this vantage point. They are simply there, have been there, will be there, fulfilling their purpose of providing solid ground, of creating surface where surface is needed. The buildings maintain their silent vigil. Within them, lives continue, though invisibly, inaudibly. People sleep, or sit in quiet contemplation, or perhaps lie awake as thoughts drift through darkness. But all of that remains private, contained behind walls designed to separate inside from outside, personal from public, individual from communal. The medieval town holds its age with dignity. It does not apologize for being old, does not attempt to disguise centuries of wear. Instead, it accepts age as evidence of endurance, of having stood when other things fell, of having provided shelter and structure through time that reduced other constructions to memory and dust. This street, these walls, these lanterns, all of it exists in a state of calm continuation. Nothing accelerates. Nothing The pace is set, has been set, will remain set, moving forward at a rate that respects the weight of stone, the patience of fire, the depth of night. The temperature remains unchanged. The air, cool and still, continues touching skin with the same gentle pressure, neither warming nor cooling, simply present. There is no wind at this level, though that distant hum suggests movement somewhere above, somewhere between roof lines and sky, where passages narrow and air finds channels through which to flow. Time, which earlier seemed to move slowly, now seems almost to have stopped, though that is illusion. It continues, second by second, minute by minute, but the lack of visible change creates an impression of suspension, as though this moment has extended beyond normal limits, become something larger and more patient than moments usually are. The lantern light has not diminished. The flames burn as steadily as they burned at the beginning, will burn as steadily hours from now. Their consistency is almost profound, a small miracle of physics and fuel, of contained combustion, providing reliable illumination through darkness that would otherwise be complete. The stones beneath have absorbed the temperature of night, becoming cool to touch, though no hand reaches to test this. They release no heat from the day's sun. Enough time has passed that any warmth they held has long since dissipated into air, leaving them neutral, temperature matching the atmosphere around them. One section of wall shows a slight variation in color, a rectangular patch where perhaps a sign once hung, or where a different type of stone was used in repair. This variation is subtle, visible only because lantern light happens to fall across it at an angle that emphasizes texture and shade. Without this light, the variation would be invisible, absorbed into general darkness. The street continues its gentle curve, patient and unchanging, leading toward sections unseen but easily imagined. The sameness is not boring, it is restful. The predictability is not monotonous, it is reassuring. This is a place that keeps its promises, and its promise is simple. Continuity without surprise, presence without demand, existence without complication. The night deepens, though light levels remain constant. Time passes, though passage leaves no visible mark. The medieval town continues, as it has continued for centuries, as it will continue for centuries more, outlasting individual attention, individual presence, individual concern. The lanterns burn, the stones rest, the walls stand, the air remains cool and still, and within this profound, pervasive quiet, there is space for thought to slow, for attention to drift, for the urgent concerns of day to recede into distance and irrelevance. This moment holds nothing that requires solving. This place demands nothing that needs doing. Everything here is already done, already in its proper place, already fulfilling its function without need for intervention or improvement. The medieval town at night is complete in its self-sufficient to its own existence, asking nothing, offering quiet constancy, continuing as it has continued, as it will continue, steady and reliable and profoundly beautifully still. A doorway set deep into one of the walls creates a shadow within a shadow, a pocket of darkness more complete than what surrounds it. The door itself is closed, has been closed for hours, its wooden surface invisible in the depth of the recess. Only the frame is visible, stone edges catching lantern light at angles that suggest depth, dimension, the presence of space held within space. The cobblestones immediately before this doorway show slight depression, evidence of centuries of threshold crossings, of people pausing at this entrance, stepping across it, wearing down stone through the simple accumulation of presence over time. The depression is shallow, barely noticeable, but it exists, a record of human activity, now silent, now stilled. Further along the street, another lantern casts its pool of amber light, creating the same patterns, the same interplay of illumination and shadow that exists elsewhere. The consistency is remarkable, each lantern performing its function with the same quiet reliability, each contributing to an atmosphere of pervasive, dependable calm. The walls between lanterns exist in partial darkness, though not complete. Ambient light from surrounding sources prevents total shadow, creating instead a middle ground where shapes remain visible, where texture can still be distinguished, where the eye can rest without losing orientation. This balance between light and dark has been carefully maintained, perhaps intentionally, perhaps through centuries of habit and adjustment. The metal of the lantern brackets shows variation in how rust has claimed them. Some brackets retain more of their original black finish, protected by position or treatment or simple luck. Others have developed red-brown patina's surface oxidation, creating colors that blend with the stone behind them. One bracket, older perhaps than the others, has developed green corrosion, copper content in the iron reacting with moisture and air to create a pale, almost luminous surface where light touches it. These variations are small, requiring attention to notice, but they add depth to what might otherwise seem uniform. The town reveals itself gradually, through accumulated detail, through small differences within larger sameness. It rewards patient observation without demanding it, offering more to those who linger without penalizing those who simply pass through. The street surface holds memories in ways beyond the depression of much-traveled paths. Here, a stain darker than surrounding stone suggests where water once pooled regularly, perhaps from a broken drain pipe, perhaps from an overflowing gutter marking stone before the problem was addressed. There, a section of cobblestones shows slight variation in color, stones replaced after damage or wear, quarried from a different location or cut from a different layer. Their mineral content subtly different from the originals they replaced. Time has worked to blend these variations, to soften contrasts, to create cohesion through the patient application of whether and where. What was once new becomes old. What was once distinct becomes integrated. The town absorbs change gradually, making it part of itself, until even replacement becomes indistinguishable from original. The clouds overhead have not moved perceptibly, though they surely have. At this scale, at this pace, their movement is too slow to track, requiring extended observation across minutes or hours to detect shift. They remain where they appear to have been, a soft ceiling holding the night contained, preventing stars from interrupting the darkness with their distant, cold light. This absence of stars creates intimacy. The night is not vast and cosmic, but local and contained, limited to what exists within the town's boundaries, between its walls, beneath its low sky. The world shrinks to manageable proportions, becomes something that can be comprehended, held in mind without effort or strain. The distant hum of wind continues without variation in pitch or volume. It has become part of the baseline, expected rather than noticed, providing subtle confirmation that the world continues, that air moves, that life persists beyond the immediate stillness of this particular street. It is company without intrusion, presence without demand. One of the buildings shows, high on its wall, a small opening, perhaps a ventilation shaft or a window too narrow for human passage. This opening is dark inside, revealing nothing of the space it connects to, but its presence suggests depth, interior space, the existence of rooms and hallways and private places beyond visible surfaces. The building is not merely facade, but structure, containing volume, housing possibility. The lantern flames continue their small, rhythmic dance, responding to air currents too subtle for human perception. This movement is hypnotic if attended to. The slight variations in brightness, creating patterns that repeat without exact duplication. Organic and alive, despite being simply the product of combustion and physics. The light these flames cast warms the stone it touches, not physically, but visually, adding amber tones to grey surfaces, creating the impression of warmth even where temperature remains cool. This visual warmth contributes to the sense of shelter, of protection, of being held within space designed for safety and rest. The street ahead maintains its gentle curve, never straightening completely, never revealing its full length. This creates a sense of continuation, of space extending beyond immediate vision, of the town being larger than what any single vantage point reveals. Yet there is no urgency to explore that unseen continuation, no pressure to move forward and discover what lies beyond. The known is sufficient. The visible is enough. A slight breeze, too gentle to be called wind, touches the street for a moment, barely perceptible moving air without creating sound, shifting nothing visible. Present more as concept than sensation. It passes quickly, leaving stillness undisturbed. A momentary variation that emphasizes rather than disrupts the prevailing calm. The buildings stand in their long patience, walls accepting weight, bearing load, fulfilling purpose with the same quiet competence they have shown since construction. They ask nothing, require nothing beyond occasional maintenance, standing as examples of function achieved and sustained across time that reduces other achievements to memory. The cobblestones beneath continue absorbing the coolness of night, becoming part of the temperature, indistinguishable from the air above them. They are solid without being hard, present without being insistent, providing foundation that can be trusted absolutely, ground that will not shift or betray. The lanterns burn through their fuel at rates too slow to measure by eye, the level of oil in their reservoirs dropping incrementally, imperceptibly. Movement happening across time frames that make individual moments irrelevant. What matters is not the instant, but the hour. Not the hour, but the night. Not the night, but the season. Not the season, but the year. Not the year, but the century. In this expanded view of time, individual human presence becomes brief, a flicker matching the flicker of lantern flames. Present and then gone, leaving marks as subtle as footsteps on ancient stone reel, meaningful in aggregate, but individually almost invisible. The medieval town accepts these presences, these passages, these brief moments of human occupation, and continues beyond them, outlasting individual concerns, individual joys, individual sorrows, providing constant structure within which temporary lives unfold and complete themselves. The shadows maintain their positions held in place by consistent light sources, creating dark counterparts to illuminated surfaces necessary for depth, for dimension, for the perception of space as three-dimensional rather than flat. Without these shadows, the street would lose character, would become abstract, unreal. The shadows ground everything, give weight to structures, depth to surfaces. One shadow, cast by an architectural detail too small to distinguish clearly, creates an interesting pattern on the wall where it falls, a series of parallel lines suggesting depth layers, complexity hidden within apparent simplicity. This shadow is incidental, unintended, simply the result of light meeting form, yet it adds visual interest to an otherwise plain surface. The street continues forward, patient and unchanging, its stones settled into earth that has held them for centuries, that will hold them for centuries more, barring catastrophe or deliberate destruction. These stones have survived because they are exactly what they were made to be: functional, durable, sufficient to their purpose, without excess or deficiency. The air holds the scent of time, of stone and dust and old wood and metal slowly oxidizing, all blended into a composite that defies individual identification, that simply registers as old, as established, as enduring. This scent is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, simply factual, evidence of age, accepted rather than disguised. The temperature has not shifted. Cool remains cool, still remains, still night continues its patient occupation of hours, moving toward morning at a pace that seems designed to demonstrate that haste is unnecessary, that all things arrive in their proper time, that rushing accomplishes nothing that patience cannot accomplish more thoroughly. The lantern light maintains its amber warmth, casting the same colors, creating the same atmosphere it created at the beginning of the night, will create at the end. Its consistency is its virtue, its predictability its gift. In a world of constant change, these flames offer constancy, and in that constancy they offer peace. The walls stand in their silent strength, bearing weight they were built to bear, providing shelter they were designed to provide, fulfilling purpose that has not changed since the hands that placed these stones released them and stepped back to admire work completed. Those hands are gone, but the work remains, testifying to craftsmanship that transcended individual lifespan, creating permanence from materials that individually might fail but collectively endure. The street holds space between its walls, creates passage through otherwise solid structures, allows movement while providing containment. It is a threshold between buildings, a connection between places, a path that has been walked by countless people across countless days, each adding their small contribution to the wearing smooth of stones, the accumulation of history, the deepening of human presence in this place. The night deepens still further, though light levels remain unchanged, lanterns burning with the same steady reliability they have shown since being lit. Time passes, but passage leaves no mark except perhaps in the gradual, imperceptible lowering of fuel levels in lantern reservoirs, a change too slow to detect, too small to matter in any immediate sense. The medieval town continues, existing as it has existed, will exist as it will exist, moving through time at the same pace time itself moves, neither hurrying nor delaying, simply being present in each moment as fully as stone and light and air can be present, which is to say, completely. The silence between sounds grows more profound, more noticeable, more present than the sounds themselves. That distant hum of wind fades into background, becomes baseline rather than event, leaving the foreground empty of stimulus, available for rest, open for thoughts to drift without anchor or urgency. The cobblestones continue their patient rest beneath the night, solid and reliable, unchanged by darkness, waiting for morning's light to reveal them again, though they exist equally in darkness and in light, fulfilling their purpose regardless of visibility, providing foundation whether seen or unseen. The lanterns will burn through the remaining hours of night, will be extinguished at dawn, will be cleaned and refilled and lit again when darkness returns, continuing their cycle, performing their function, offering light to those who need it, casting shadows for those who find comfort in darkness, punctuated by illumination. The street will remain when the lanterns are dark, will exist through daylight hours when its character changes, but its nature does not, will welcome evening's return and the relighting of lamps, continuing its own cycle, its own rhythm, its own patient existence. And the medieval town, ancient and enduring, will hold all of this within its boundaries, will shelter and protect, will stand and support, will continue being exactly what it has always been, a place of stone and light and shadow, of human construction serving human need, of permanence in a world of change, of quiet in a world of noise, of rest in a world of endless activity. Here, now, in this moment that extends beyond normal limits, in this space that exists partially outside normal time, there is nothing that needs doing, nothing that requires solving, nothing that demands attention or response or understanding. There is only the street. The stones, the walls, the light, the shadows, the cool, still air, the distant hum of wind, the persistent silence, the patient night, all existing together in harmony so complete it feels almost like peace, almost like sanctuary, almost like home. The lanterns burn, the stones rest, the town continues. And within this continuation, there is room for thoughts to slow, for breath to deepen, for the day's concerns to recede into distance and insignificance, for rest to arrive not through effort but through simple acceptance of what is as it is, without need for change or improvement or understanding. The medieval town at night asks nothing, offers everything it has, which is quiet constancy, reliable presence, patient endurance, and these gifts, simple and profound, continue being offered, whether accepted or not, whether noticed or not, simply because this is what the town is, what it has always been, what it will always be. For as long as stones remain stones, and light remains light, and night remains night,